Hey guys, I wanted to come on here and give my thoughts on this whole situation going on with the Olympics. This year in Tokyo and next year in Beijing. And I'll tell you, I've heard about, I've read up on, I've watched a lot of controversial history when it came to the Olympics. Ever since they were kind of incepted, if you will, or kind of came into existence. I've heard a lot of, like I said, I've heard, seen, read, a lot of controversial moments and situations surrounding the Olympics, but nothing really like what's going on here. I mean, yeah, we all know about what happened in Atlanta in '96, and that was a tragedy, no doubt about it. It shouldn't have happened, I'll tell you that. We know about what happened to Nancy Kerrigan and Tanya Harding. We know what happened there. So there's a lot of stuff when it came to the Olympics that we know about. We know about some of the tragedies that happened in the 70s, a lot of the terrorist situations back then. We know about the boycott that the Olympics did, I think, in the early 80s, and we know about the miracle, with the U.S. hockey team. So we know all about these moments and controversies. But like I said, nothing really compares in a sense, and I say this with all due respect, nothing really compares in a sense to what's going on right now. I mean, when you think about it, even though because of COVID, the Olympics originally scheduled for last year were postponed to this year, you still have some people that are trying to boycott it, or at least trying to get it postponed again, or held off again until a later time, because Japan right now is not in the best of places when it comes to potentially hosting an event as huge as the Olympics. And even though reports have come out that Japan's doing what they can to make sure these Olympics go on as scheduled, and that there are going to be spectators, maybe not as much, maybe as of right now, according to reports, not as much as they would hope, if you will, but that could all change within the next month or so, or the next several weeks, because apparently, even though 7% of the population is fully vaccinated, who's to say within the next several weeks that percentage won't go up, especially with reports stating that Japan is now supercharging the vaccination process to get people partially, if not fully vaccinated, so at least they can attend the events. These Olympic events, I should say. So yeah, it's just one of those situations to where you hear about everything going on. I mean, the fact that they won't be serving like alcoholic drinks, to spectators or even athletes, during and after the events, and that basically as far as the athletes go, if you want to drink, that's fine, but you got to drink on your own. You got to do it back in your hotel room. So there's a lot of stuff going down right now to where some people feel that with all these rules and regulations that just because 7% to 10% maybe by now of the populace is fully vaccinated, they feel that the Olympics shouldn't be going on. As a matter of fact, we have reports of boycotts happening as we speak. There's reports and rumors going around of potential countries considering, the government bodies that is, considering not allowing their athletes to go. Even though reports are going around that Tokyo and that Tokyo, Japan, and Beijing, Tokyo, Japan, and Beijing, China are offering full vaccinations for the athletes and anybody that's traveling as part of this. People feel that, again, there are people, some in governing powers and stuff, that believe these Olympics, as well as regular citizens, or people that are part of certain movements, that believe these Olympics shouldn't be going on right now because Japan's not up at a certain percentage point to where the worryiness of athletes and spectators and broadcasters potentially catching the virus could be very risky, could be very unsafe for them to be part of. But as of right now, the Olympics are still going to go on as scheduled. I mean, here's the thing. Here's the thing I want to ask the people that believe that the Olympics should be boycotted this year again, should be boycotted or postponed again in Tokyo until maybe next year or later on in the year. Let me ask you this. How would you feel if you're the athletes and you're putting in all this hard work over the past 4 or 5 years prior to 2020, thinking you're going to be part of the 2020 Olympics that year, and then find out you can't because of this global pandemic, and now you have a chance to make good on that this year? How would you feel if all of a sudden you're told, if you're in the athlete's shoes, hey, we're going to postpone the Olympics again until later in the year or until 2022? How would you feel? You knowing that you're putting in all this hard work, you're taking all the safety precautions needed, to make this happen for yourself. You're getting vaccinated and all that. How would you feel? You wouldn't like it, would you? You wouldn't be happy that you're putting all this hard work in and all of a sudden it's taken away from you. You wouldn't appreciate it. I know I wouldn't. But, that's how some people feel. Some people feel that that's, not feel, but that's what some people don't realize. That's what I'm trying to say. It's kind of late right now. It's about 1:40 in the morning Pacific time. But like I said, that's how some people, that's what some people that want to boycott these Olympics, some of those governing bodies around the globe that want to, postpone them until later on. That's what they don't understand. These athletes have put in enough time and hard work and have waited long enough for this moment in time, as the Whitney Houston song would go for the Olympics back in 98, 96, if you will. On that, something like that, 92. They don't realize that if you try to get the Olympics canceled or postponed to later on, you're gonna, it's just gonna hurt these athletes even more. It's gonna discourage them even more, because some of them may believe and feel that these Olympics will never happen if you do that. So, to me, I think we just got to look at this Olympics as being one of those Olympics in the history of this event that, it's going to go on as planned, but it's going to have a different feel to it. It's going to have a different feel like we've never seen in quite some time. And what's crazy is you got to think about it along these lines as well. We've seen a lot of these qualifying events happening, a lot of these qualifying events and stuff happening throughout the year, even during the pandemic, with all the safety precautions and everything. And they've done it in, they've done it in front of no crowds. They've done it in crowds of 25% or less, and they still go out there and they put on a great performance as if they're in front of the world, as if they're in front of a huge, massive audience. And, that's how we got to look at it ourselves as spectators. We got to look at it ourselves as those that want to boycott this, as those that are part of the governing bodies that want it postponed or canceled outright. We got to look at it from the athlete's point of view, that they're still going to go out there and perform as if they're in front of, as if they're doing it in front of thousands of hundreds of people in attendance. Even if it's a few people, they're still going to go out there and give their all. That's what they're going to do. But what's even crazier though about the Olympics, besides, this whole thing with the Tokyo Olympics, is the Beijing Olympics in February of next year. you've got a lot of governing bodies, honestly, that want these Olympics to go on, but they want them to be relocated. That is not a joke. They want the Olympics relocated from Beijing, China, to somewhere else. And, you know, the reason for it is because they still feel that China is at fault for what happened last year, and still is at the tail end in some places around the world, if not most places around the world, as we speak. You know, they still hold China, you know, responsible because they believe China knows something that they're not telling us. And, you know, we have a lot of governing bodies, not just here in the United States, but around the globe, that are basically in unanimous agreement that these Olympics can still go on, but they got to be moved someplace else. That China right now pretty much has lost all rights and privileges of having these Olympics because of what happened. That's pretty much the feeling when it comes to the 2022 Winter Olympics. That China pretty much has screwed themselves out of the, you know, the privilege of having these games. But the question is, should the IOC, the International Olympics Committee, decide, okay, we're going to relocate the event, where do they relocate it to? Well, I think obviously the best answer to, in my opinion, the best answer is to relocate it to the city that was basically came up as the runner-up, if you will, in the bid. That's what I would do. I would basically say, look, you know, China can have the Olympics maybe down the line and everything, but the cities that should have it, the city that should get it, honestly, you know, the city that should get it is the runner-up, and that's Almonte, Almonte, Almaty, Almonte, in Kazakhstan, basically part of the Russian Republic, if you will. It's a Kazakhstan, Kazakhstan, or something like that. It's a transcontinental country, mainly located in Central Asia, with smaller portions west of the Ural River in Eastern Europe. It covers land of 2,724.90. It covers land of 2,724,900 square kilometers, and shares land borders with Russia. But yeah, Almonte, if you will, Almonte, or Almonte, if you will. You know, to me, if you want to relocate the Olympics, if I'm the IOC, I go to the runner-up. I go to Almonte. I go to Almonte and have it there. I say, look, you know, you guys are the runners-up, you know, and right now, you guys are the more worthy host city, country, if you will, for these Winter Games. So if I'm them, I go with the runner-up. If the IOC decides to eventually move the Olympics under all the pressure and everything from the governing bodies, not just here in the States, but around the world, that feel that Beijing, China, you know, shouldn't be holding them right now because they still put the blame on China for what happened, then I think the best solution is to relocate it to the runner-up location of Almonte, if you will. That's what I would do. I would basically relocate it there, and it makes sense. You know, it makes sense. Honestly, it does. Almonte, if you will. You know, it makes sense. You know, it makes sense to move it to that area. You know, like it, you know, because again, they're the runner-up. They are the runner-up, if you will. So it would make a lot of sense for them to do that, in my opinion. It basically be very similar to what happened earlier this year, like not even earlier, about about a month ago or so. After what happened in Atlanta, MLB said, screw Atlanta for what you guys did. We're going to relocate the All-Star game next month to Denver, Colorado. And that's what they did. So, to me, it's almost like, why doesn't the IOC consider doing the same thing if you have all these governing bodies, around the world, here in the U.S., United Kingdom, Russia, India, Africa, you name it, Japan, Mexico, Canada. Why don't you just relocate it to the runner-up, to the country that was to the country and the city that was the runner-up in the bid years ago? Why not just do that? Because to me, if you do that, you still get to hold the Olympics as planned, but you're holding them in the location of the town that, by disqualification, if you will, to Beijing because of what's happened, have become the new host city. So to me, that's what they should do if they decide to relocate. And they have plenty of time to make that decision. And Almente pretty much has everything set up, what it looks like, or potentially has a lot of things set up already for the Olympics to take place there. So to me, that would be the best solution, in my opinion. But those are just my thoughts on what's going on overall with the Olympics, both the Summer Olympics in Tokyo starting a month from now, and the Winter Olympics scheduled for the time being for Beijing, China, but could be relocated, possibly, in my opinion, to the runner-up country of runner-up city and country in Eastern Europe of Almente, if you will. But let me know what your thoughts are. How do you feel about it? What do you think should be the solution, not just for the Summer Olympics, which are still going to be going on, but mostly for the winter? Let me know how you feel down below. Comment if you like. And I am out.